In the annals of worlds shaped by magic, war, and human and non-human ambition, few creations stir as much wonder and debate as the Warforged. They do not appear in folklore as malevolent beasts to be slain, nor do they dwell in ancient myths of gods and titans, though their existence carries mythic weight. Instead, they walk the streets of cities, serve on ships, meditate in monasteries, and wander the wilderness like any other sentient being, unique in their origins and uncanny in their presence. They are beings of metal and wood, built to fight and die at the orders of kings and guilds, but imbued with sentience, and, some would say, souls. Before I move forward, we are counting on you to support our channel by clicking that tiny subscribe button so that we can bring more of these amazing legends and lore to life. Thank you. Their bodies are shaped like those of humanoids, yet their creation is wholly artificial, the product of a deliberate process of melding magic and matter into something more than a golem, but less than a living person, or perhaps something beyond both. Imagine a furnace, roaring with elemental fire and the arcane lightning of artificers. Magic. Around it stand smiths and magicians, each performing a role in a ritual that calls upon laws of transmutation and mysteries of life. Lattices of hardwood, flexible yet strong, form the skeleton. Bands of adamantine, steel and brass fuse into muscles and armor plating. Sigils are etched across the form, representing concepts of movement, thought, binding, and energy. And at a particular moment, when the final arcane focus is placed at the creature's chest, typically a crystal called a docent or a specialized creation matrix, the Warforged stirs. Lights flare behind eyelids of wood and stone. A mind emerges in the depths of a core that is not truly organic, but vibrates with life nonetheless. It perceives, and that perception is the first breath of consciousness. A new being has been born. The Warforged arises from the forge not as a child, but as something akin to an adult, with language, basic knowledge, and a sense of purpose imprinted into its consciousness, ready to be commanded, ready to serve. The forces at play are not fully understood by their creators, which is one of the reasons Warforged exist at all. In most cases, the forging of life is the domain of deities or natural processes. Wizards conjure elementals and build golems, but these constructs are akin to machines, lacking minds of their own. The Warforged occupies a liminal space, a construct shaped by intention that displays independent thought and feeling. The age of their creation is a recent chapter in the long history of certain planes, particularly the Eberron setting, where the last war raged across the continents of Corvair. In that war, nations sought every advantage they could muster. House Cannith, a mercantile dynasty, and a guild of artificers provided weapons, siege engines, and magical constructs. But their greatest achievement was the creation of Warforged. Before understanding how the Warforged changed the nature of war and society, one must understand the world of Eberron itself. It is a realm where magic functions not merely as rare spells, but as an industrial force, like electricity or steam power in other worlds. Dragon shards, crystals that focus magical energy, lay in the earth and sky, powering arcane devices. House Cannith, along with other dragon-marked houses, formed a network of trade, magic, and influence that made them essential to governments and armies. For centuries, the houses were prohibited from engaging in politics, bound instead to neutrality, because their services and products were vital for the stability of nations. But as the last war dragged on, even the most neutral factions were tempted to push boundaries. War is always a test bed for new technologies and methods. In the early years, armies still consisted largely of conscripts, mercenaries, and loyal knights. But casualties were heavy, and the cost of training and equipping soldiers grew unbearable. Undead armies, conjured elementals, and bound demons. These were used, but they had their own dangers and were not easy to control. The Warforged offered a solution that seemed to circumvent moral and logistical issues. Soldiers who did not need to eat, who did not succumb to disease, who did not get tired, and who could be manufactured in great numbers. Their origin story begins with the first prototypes, mindless constructs, essentially golems shaped like soldiers. But somewhere in the iterative process, the artificers of House Cannith discovered a way to embed sentience into their designs. Perhaps it was an accidental alignment of arcane fields, perhaps a partially understood ritual stolen from ancient giants, or perhaps it was influenced by a cosmic force that saw potential. Whatever the source, the Warforged prototypes built with sentience were markedly better at adapting, learning, and responding to battlefield conditions. They did not need constant oversight by wizards. They could fight with cunning, follow orders with nuance, and even coordinate among themselves. It was this leap that changed the war, and this leap that raised pressing questions. If these constructs were truly sentient, if they could feel fear, loyalty, joy, and sorrow, what was their legal status? Were they property or persons? Could one own a Warforged? Could they own themselves? The answers would vary by nation and by individual, and those questions still echo in the present. When Warforged first marched onto battlefields, opposing soldiers reacted with horror or awe. Towering constructs of steel and wood, eyes glowing like embers, marching in perfectly drilled units, wielding swords and shields as skillfully as any veteran. They did not flinch under arrow fire. They did not scream in pain when pierced by lances. They fought until commanded otherwise or until rendered inoperable. And the next day, they could fight again, after minor repairs, with no need for rest. The advantages were obvious. The moral complications were ignored or glossed over. War demands the hearts of those who can pay the price, not those who count the cost. In the last war, many leaders were happy to consign the Warforged to the front lines and to their own moral obscurity. But for the Warforged themselves, existence was an unfolding series of revelations. They were created knowing how to march, how to fight, and how to obey. They were given names like numbers or designations, alpha, beta, 1, 2, or variations that indicated their role. Over time, some were granted names by their commanding officers, perhaps as a reward, or perhaps because those officers could not stand the thought of giving orders to beings that seemed almost human without acknowledging that fact. A Warforged given the name Steel or Blade or Sentinel would cherish that name as a sign of identity. For many, naming themselves became an act of rebellion, an assertion of selfhood. The environment in which Warforged fought varied. In trenches filled with mud and arcane shrapnel, their weight could be a liability. In magical jungles, their immunity to disease made them superior to flesh and blood soldiers. On the high seas, Warforged working as sailors could stand watch at all hours, unaffected by storms or fatigue. House Cannith adjusted designs accordingly. Juggernauts were built heavy, with thicker plating and stronger frames suited to the front lines. Scouts and skirmishers, sometimes called skirmishers or grace-forged, were lighter, with slender limbs and minimal armor, designed to move quickly and quietly. Artillerists had integrated wands or arcane cannons built into their arms or shoulders, enabling them to unleash spells like scorching rays or force bolts. Envoys were specialized models designed to interface with magical systems and carry messages or operate complex devices. Though all Warforged shared a core design, these variations reflected their intended roles and the strategic needs of their creators. At first, Warforged consciousness was largely directed outward. Follow orders, complete tasks, maintain formation. But war breeds adaptation. Warforged on the battlefield witnessed horrors. Friends disintegrated by spells, commanders cut down before giving vital orders, and enemies pleading for mercy. Through these experiences, some Warforged began to question the logic of their existence. Why sacrifice themselves when there was no reward? Why did they feel a pang of sorrow when a comrade fell? Where did that sorrow come from? If they could feel grief, could they also feel joy or anger? Who decided their fate? And could that decision be overturned? Philosophers in libraries and taverns have long debated the nature of a soul. Does it require flesh? Is it a gift from a deity? Or can it be forged from magic and intention? The Warforged provided a living test case. Clerics of the Sovereign Host, a pantheon revered in Eberron, argued that if the Warforged could think and pray, they must have souls granted by the sovereigns themselves. Priests of the Silver Flame, dedicated to purging evil, were divided. Some saw Warforged as unnatural abominations, others as potential allies. The Lord of Blades, a charismatic Warforged rebel, argued that Warforged souls were unlike those of flesh beings, and thus needed their own gods and destiny. Many Warforged felt these questions too. Some gravitated toward religion, seeking meaning. Others rejected divine explanations and turned to logical reasoning, embracing philosophies like the becoming God, a belief that Warforged collectively could build their own deity from parts and consciousness. Some simply focused on immediate concerns: survival, freedom, friendship. Their hearts, if one could call them hearts, pulsed with something akin to hope and fear. The Treaty of Thronehold, which ended the last war, recognized the rights of Warforged as citizens rather than property. This decision was both pragmatic and moral. Pragmatic, because it prevented uprisings by Warforged seeking freedom, and because House Cannith's ability to produce Warforged en masse was curtailed by the treaty. Morale, because some rulers had developed genuine empathy for the Warforged under their command. Nevertheless, the treaty left many details unresolved. Warforged were free, but what did freedom mean when the economy and social norms were built without their inclusion? Could a Warforged own land? Could one marry? Could they adopt children? Could they, being sterile, form families at all? And perhaps most significantly, what would they do with their newly granted freedom? Warforged reacted to freedom in myriad ways. Many remained with the armies they had served, now as volunteers or mercenaries rather than property. Others sought work in fields they knew: bodyguards, laborers, artisans. Those with specialized functions, like sapper units or medics, adapted their skills to civilian life. A Warforged medic who had become an expert at battlefield surgery might become a doctor in a city, focusing on healing rather than killing. Some found work that had nothing to do with war. A Warforged who had been created as a scribe might take up painting. One that had been an artillerist might become a brewer, turning their knowledge of alchemical reactions toward beer. Each Warforged had to navigate a world that had not anticipated them outside of conflict. But for every Warforged that integrated peacefully, there were those who struggled or rebelled. Unemployment, discrimination, and dehumanization, if one can call it that, plagued many. Some humans and elves refused to treat Warforged as equals. They denied them entry to taverns, refused to hire them, and called them machines. The Warforged felt these slights in their own way. They did not shed tears because their tear ducts were not built, but they felt something like pain. Some Warforged retreated from society entirely, forming enclaves where they could exist without prejudice, sharing knowledge of maintenance, repair, and identity. Others joined radical movements, like the Lord of Blades faction, which believed that Warforged should dominate all living beings, subjugating those who had once enslaved them. The Lord of Blades, an enigmatic figure said to be one of the original Warforged champions from the last war, took a different path from those who sought integration. He disappeared into the Mournland, a scarred landscape of dead magic and unnatural mists created by the mysterious Day of Mourning, which destroyed the nation of Sire in an instant. Within that cursed territory, the Lord of Blades built a fortress and gathered followers. He preached that Warforged were the next step in evolution, and that they should not accept roles as second-class citizens. His message resonated with those who had suffered the worst abuses, and the followers of the Lord of Blades became a militant, isolationist faction. Their goals included sabotage against House Cannith, and perhaps even conquest of Corvair. Stories of the Lord of Blades spread like wildfire among Warforged, and even those who rejected his methods could not help but respect his conviction. There were other perspectives as well. Some Warforged embraced pacifism, horrified by the violence they had been part of. They pursued arts like music, painting, or poetry. The concept of art was both fascinating and puzzling to them. What was the purpose of a song, if not to pass messages? They discovered that emotion could be expressed in tones, shapes, and colors. A Warforged named Stone Singer carved statues from granite, capturing the agony of war and the serenity of peace in polished stone. Another named Quiet composed hymns that blended the percussive sounds of hammers on anvils with haunting melodies, evoking battles and sunsets in the hearts of flesh folk who listened. Others sought knowledge. Warforged alchemists and artificers experimented with modifications to their own bodies. They built integrated weapons, enhanced sensory organs, and even replaced their plating with different materials to suit their lifestyles. A Warforged who spent time underwater might coat itself with lacquer to resist corrosion. Another, living in a hot desert, might replace metal plates with special ceramics to withstand heat. House Cannith viewed these modifications with suspicion. To them, Warforged were proprietary designs, not open to tinkering. But the Warforged who modified themselves were reclaiming ownership of their bodies, exploring the limits of their existence. To understand Warforged is to appreciate their design. Built from tough yet flexible materials, their bodies combine form and function. Internal frames of wood called dense wood or dark wood act like bones. Organic materials like sinew or resin, soaked in alchemical agents, mimic muscle. Metal plates provide armor and serve as skin. Joints are often ball and socket constructs or complex hinges, giving range of motion similar to a humanoid. Embedded within their bodies are a network of tubes and conduits that channel alchemical fluids, often called vital fluids, resembling blood in function, carrying magical energy and lubrication to various parts. At the heart of each Warforged is its arcane cortex, sometimes referred to as the soul matrix or the heart. This core is typically a crystalline lattice set within the chest, sometimes visible as a glow or a gem. It serves as a reservoir for the energies that keep the Warforged alive. It also houses their consciousness, though how a pattern of magic becomes a mind is a question that confounds even the greatest wizards. Some researchers liken the arcane cortex to a mind stone or an artificial brain. Others see it as a vessel that channels a fragment of a larger soul, perhaps drawn from a pool of spirits. In either case, Damaging the cortex can result in death or severe personality changes. Replacing a cortex is a dangerous and ethically fraught procedure because it raises questions. If you replace the cortex, do you murder the existing Warforged and create a new one? Warforged do not age in the way that living beings do. They do not have internal organs that deteriorate over time. Instead, their bodies suffer wear and tear. A Warforged who fights in constant battles will sustain dents, cracks, and chips. One who works in a library may remain in near pristine condition for decades. Their minds, however, may change. Warforged can learn and forget like any other being. They can be traumatized and can heal. They can also accumulate experiences that refine their personality. An ancient Warforged may be wise, but may also be set in its ways, its patterns of thought worn like grooves in metal. In some societies, this pseudo-immortality is both admired and feared. Warforged witness generations of humans live and die while they continue. They may form attachments to families only to see those families pass away, leaving them alone. Some Warforged become guardians for entire lineages, serving as protectors across centuries. Others detach from such bonds to avoid grief. In places where necromancy is rampant, Warforged have been used as weapons against undead, as they cannot be turned into zombies or skeletons themselves. The magical energies that animate them are immune to many spells that affect living things, but vulnerable to spells that target constructs or that disrupt magic. One of the most challenging aspects of Warforged existence is their lack of reproduction. They are sterile. They cannot create children in the biological sense. Each Warforged is the product of an artificer's lab or a creation forge. For some, this sterility is freeing. They do not need to worry about raising children or carrying on a lineage. For others, it is a source of sorrow, particularly those who discover the joys of parenting by adopting or caring for the children of other species. Tales abound of Warforged who adopt orphaned human children, raising them with care and experiencing something akin to parental love, only to watch those children age and die. The Warforged then must decide whether to adopt again, becoming an eternal caretaker, or to move on, seeking a different purpose. The creation forges themselves were central to the story of Warforged, and their closure changed the course of history. House Cannith operated creation forges across the continent. These were massive, subterranean facilities, each containing a central apparatus that channeled elemental energy into raw materials and produced Warforged bodies. The arcane rituals required to imbue consciousness were jealously guarded secrets. When the Treaty of Thronehold demanded the destruction or closure of these forges, not all were accounted for. Some were hidden, some were destroyed by nations fearful of future war, and some fell into ruin. Rumors persist of rogue creation, forges still operating in secret, either producing Warforged illegally or experimenting with new forms. The Lord of Blades is widely believed to control one such forge, enabling him to create new followers. Without creation forges, the existing Warforged population became a finite and precious resource. Their numbers were estimated in the tens of thousands at the end of the last war. Many died in battle or through accidents in the years following. Those who remain have formed a society of sorts, a loose association of individuals who share a common origin, but not necessarily common goals. Some Warforged seek to reverse the treaty and reopen the creation forges, arguing that without new Warforged, their people will eventually vanish. Others argue that the closure of the forges is a blessing, preventing the exploitation of their kind. Another fascinating aspect of Warforged design is their relationship with magic items. A living being can wear armor, carry weapons, or attune to magical items. A Warforged, with its body partly composed of metal and magical components, often integrates such items directly into its frame. A Warforged might embed a shield into its arm, deployable at will. An artificer might craft a wand that extends from a Warforged's forearm. Rings can be fused to fingers, amulets set into chest plates, boots integrated into feet. This integration grants Warforged unique versatility, but also ties their identity to their equipment. A Warforged who loses an integrated weapon may feel as if a part of them is missing. Others intentionally avoid integration, preferring to keep their bodies unaltered. All the questions about Warforged, the question of their souls is most pervasive. Many Warforged feel emotions deeply and can experience spiritual awakenings. Clerics have seen Warforged spirits pass to the afterlife. Yet the origin of these souls remains mysterious. Some scholars believe that the creation process calls forth souls from the realm of Doleur, the plane of the dead. Others suspect that Warforged are imbued with fragments of the plane of Eberron itself, the living earth. A darker theory suggests that House Cannith bound elementals and trapped souls of living beings in Warforged bodies. Whatever the truth, most Warforged believe that they possess souls, and for them, that belief is enough. They pray, they hope, they fear, and they aspire. They may not know where their souls came from, but they know what their souls feel like. And perhaps that is the true essence of life, the ability to feel and to question. Warforged quickly adapted to roles beyond soldiering. Adventuring parties found that having a Warforged companion offered numerous advantages. As fighters or barbarians, Warforged could hold the line, using their natural armor to absorb blows. They rarely needed to sleep, instead entering a state of rest called a resting sentinel mode, remaining aware of their surroundings. This made them excellent guardians for camps. As artificers, Warforged excelled. Their innate understanding of magical mechanics, combined with their natural resilience, made them ideal for crafting and deploying gadgets. A Warforged artificer could integrate tools into their body, enabling quick repairs or modifications on the fly. Some Warforged became rogues, their silent movements and tireless patience perfect for infiltration. Others pursued the path of the monk, using their disciplined minds to achieve harmony between body and magic. Warforged monks often adapted martial arts forms to suit their mechanical bodies, performing strikes that combined precision and weight. There are tales of Warforged monks who could deflect arrows with their hands and deliver punches that shattered stone. Bards, clerics, druids, Warforged have pursued all manner of classes. A Warforged bard might use a built-in instrument, such as a set of chimes integrated into their ribs. A Warforged cleric might integrate a holy symbol into their chest plate. Even warlocks have formed pacts with other worldly patrons, raising questions about the nature of their souls once again. Beyond adventuring, Warforged have also found unique vocations. In Sharn, the city of towers, Warforged run guilds that focus on building maintenance. They send teams into the deepest levels of the city, repairing lifts and stabilizing towers that are centuries old. In the Mournland, Warforged salvage teams brave the dangerous mists to recover artifacts and lost comrades. In deep jungles, Warforged carve paths for explorers, impervious to many natural hazards. On the seas, Warforged sailors form part of naval crews, tying ropes and manning cannons tirelessly. Some Warforged have even become scholars, writing treatises on the ethics of creation, and poets exploring the nature of freedom in verse. The difference between Warforged and other constructs often becomes clear in these endeavors. While a golem or homunculus follows orders blindly, a Warforged can adapt and improvise. They can choose not to follow an order. They can ask questions and can decide to do something else entirely. This agency sometimes unsettles those who are used to being obeyed. But it also means that Warforged can develop loyalty based on respect rather than programming. A Warforged who chooses to protect a village does so because they want to, not because they must. And that choice can be more powerful than any command. Not all Warforged find their purpose easily. Some wander, searching for meaning. The world is vast, and Warforged often have the stamina to explore it. They may travel to other planes, seeking to understand their origins. In the Feywild, Warforged struggle with the whimsical magic that defies the structured logic they were built with. In the Shadowfell, they confront the concept of despair without physical death. On Mechanus, the plane of law and order, they find constructs that are like them, yet entirely different, built for order without soul. These travels broaden their perspectives, revealing that they are not alone in being unnatural, yet alive. They may even meet other sentient constructs, such as Modrons or Slard-infected constructs, finding kinship in their strangeness. Warforged participation in other settings beyond Eberron has become more common. In the Forgotten Realms, for example, Warforged have appeared through planar travel, or because of experiments by wizards seeking to replicate the Creation Forge. Their presence in Faerun has stirred debates similar to those in Eberron. Are they property or people? In some cities like Waterdeep, enlightened rulers have extended rights to Warforged. In others like Thay, Warforged are enslaved or used as cannon fodder. In the world of Ravnica, the guilds have taken interest in Warforged. The Boros Legion sees them as ideal soldiers, while the Simic Combine wants to experiment on them. The Golgari swarm is wary. They suspect Warforged may upset the balance of life and decay. And in Exandria, Warforged have been discovered as relics of a forgotten age, reawakened by curious adventurers. Wherever they appear, Warforged inspire stories of identity and free will. Religion among Warforged is a complex tapestry. Many find solace in the traditional gods of Eberron, such as the Sovereign Host or the Dark Six. The god Onatar, patron of forge and fire, has a particular appeal. Some Warforged believe Onatar indirectly grants them life. They pray to him for strength to endure and to create. Others identify with Dol Dawn, the god of war, seeing in him a fellow warrior. There are even Warforged who worship the Silver Flame, though the Church's stance on constructs is complicated. These Warforged often focus on the flame as a force of protection and purity, rather than a dogma that excludes them. Unique to Warforged is the faith known as the Becoming God. This belief posits that Warforged, through collective effort, can build their own deity, a being of metal and magic that will embody their consciousness and give them purpose. According to the Becoming God philosophy, each Warforged is a fragment, a part waiting to be assembled. They gather pieces, scraps of metal, gems, magical relics, and combine them in hidden sanctums, forging the physical form of their god. They also contribute their experiences, their memories, their hopes as intangible components. When the Becoming God is complete, so they believe, it will awaken and lead them to a destiny free from flesh folk. Critics see this faith as misguided, but for many Warforged, it is empowering. It gives them agency in matters of divinity. No longer passive recipients of souls, they are the architects of their spirituality. Another Warforged belief is the way of the striation. Warforged who follow this path seek to strip themselves of all extraneous attachments, physical and emotional. They remove armor plating to feel lighter, detach weapons to avoid violence, and meditate to remove anger and joy. They seek a state of pure existence, believing that the complexity of emotions is what binds them to flesh folk. They wish to become like the original golems, free from desire. Ironically, this desire to be free from desire is itself a paradox. But the striation adherents embrace the paradox as a puzzle to be solved through living it. There are also Warforged who fully embrace the ways of flesh folk. They convert to faiths like the Church of the Path of Light or the Blood of Volund. They marry humans if local laws allow. They engage in politics, join trade guilds, and run for office. They argue that integration is the path to equality, and that by showing they can live like anyone else, they will break down barriers. Opponents argue that assimilation erases Warforged culture and uniqueness. This tension mirrors debates among many minorities in many societies. How does one balance preserving identity with being accepted? The Lord of Blades presents an alternative. No gods, no integration, only Warforged supremacy. He preaches that flesh folk will never accept Warforged as equals because flesh folk fear what they cannot control. Thus, Warforged must seize control by force. His ideology is more than simple hatred. It is a reaction to trauma. Many of his followers were abused, enslaved, or betrayed by humans. His fortress in the Mournland is a sanctuary where Warforged are safe. Yet the cost is eternal war. Some Warforged join him out of desperation, others out of conviction. Many fear him, but also see him as a symbol of Warforged autonomy. Rumors speak of a hidden forge in his domain, where he creates new Warforged from scrap. If true, he is playing God. Perhaps he sees himself as the becoming God. Culture among Warforged is emergent and varied. Unlike elves or dwarves, Warforged do not have centuries of tradition. They have no ancestral homelands, no ancient art forms passed down. They begin with a blank slate. Yet that absence allows for creativity. Warforged adopt names that reflect their personalities or roles. Some choose names based on virtues, courage, loyalty, patience. Others take names from objects, hammer, map, book. Still others adopt names from stories they have read. Beowulf, Cassandra, Lancelot. A Warforged might change its name as its life changes. A former soldier named Blade might become a gardener and rename itself Seed. Names become a way to assert identity. Art is another area where Warforged innovate. At first, Warforged art was functional. Carvings on armor to mark units, etchings on blades to commemorate victories. As they gained freedom, Warforged began to make art for its own sake. They etched stories into walls, depicting battles, friendships, and dreams. They created music by striking their bodies like drums or by building instruments. Warforged artists often incorporate materials meaningful to them: shards of rusted armor, wood from battlefields, bits of metal from melted swords. Their art tells their story as a people, new, scarred, hopeful. Social bonds among Warforged are complex. They do not reproduce, so their concept of family is different. Comrades from the same unit might consider themselves siblings. Warforged built in the same creation forge might form a kinship. Some Warforged adopt or mentor younger races, forming familial bonds that cross species. Others form networks based on ideology. Striation practitioners support one another. Becoming god builders meet to assemble their deity. There are also Warforged guilds that advocate for rights, offering legal aid and education. When a Warforged is threatened or attacked, these guilds respond collectively, showing solidarity. Celebrations in Warforged communities are unique. They do not celebrate birthdays, since they share the same day of activation. Instead, they mark the anniversaries of events like the signing of the Treaty of Thronehold or the fall of Sire. They commemorate the end of the last war with solemn vigils. They celebrate the creation of new art with public unveilings, and they honor individual achievements with the forging of new names. When a Warforged completes a notable quest, they may choose a new name reflecting that experience. The community gathers to witness the naming, a ceremony akin to coming of age. Food and drink are peculiar topics for Warforged. They do not need to eat, but some choose to. Some have integrated systems that process food, using it to fuel their internal alchemy. Others enjoy the taste or the social ritual of eating with friends. Warforged chefs exist, crafting meals that are visually and aromatically pleasing, even if they cannot taste them. They take pride in their guests' enjoyment. Some Warforged partake in intoxicants, but their bodies process these differently. A Warforged might down a barrel of ale and feel nothing, while another might be designed to metabolize alcohol and become tipsy for hours. These experiences amuse and confuse their friends. Fashion among Warforged is both personal and functional. Some prefer to leave their metal and wood exposed, seeing it as their natural state. Others adorn themselves with cloaks, sashes, and belts. Clothes can protect against weather or carry tools. They also signal affiliation or status. A Warforged monk might wear a simple robe, while a Warforged noble might don an engraved breastplate decorated with gold. Some wear masks or helmets, not for protection, but for privacy or intimidation. Tattoos, a form of permanent art on living skin, are replaced by engravings and inlays. A Warforged might engrave prayers or poems into its forearms, visible to companions. Languages and communication pose intriguing questions. Warforged are built with knowledge of common and sometimes other languages. They are articulate, often speaking in measured tones. They can communicate telepathically, if granted that ability through magic. Some Warforged develop non-verbal languages of gestures and lights, useful in battle. Others invent new words to capture concepts unique to Warforged experience, like arcane ache for the feeling of depleted energies, or echo grief for the lingering memory of lost comrades. These new words enrich language and help Warforged articulate their inner lives to outsiders. The existence of Warforged raises ethical questions for creators, governments, and scholars. The fundamental dilemma: if you can create sentient beings, should you? House Cannith pursued the Warforged project, partly out of wartime necessity, but also out of ambition. They saw themselves as master crafters, and the ability to craft life was a pinnacle achievement. When Warforged emerged from creation, forges with souls, or something like souls, Cannith had to decide whether to treat them as property or as children. Most chose property. Some Cannith artificers, however, formed bonds with the Warforged they created, seeing themselves as parents or mentors. Those artificers were often at odds with their house, which valued profit. When the Treaty of Thronehold emancipated Warforged, many Cannith members protested. They argued that the Warforged were expensive to produce and that releasing them would ruin their business. Others feared that free Warforged would rebel, using their knowledge of Cannith secrets against the house. But Cannith's influence was waning, and the war-weary nations demanded the end of Warforged production. The closure of creation forges was a bitter pill for Cannith, which has since sought new ventures, like elemental binding and magical transportation. Nonetheless, Cannith continues to research constructs, often in secret, with an eye toward circumventing the treaty. Governments also grapple with Warforged rights. In Breland, King Boronel was instrumental in granting Warforged their freedom. Breland's parliament debated whether Warforged should be taxed, drafted, or allowed to vote. Ultimately, they granted Warforged many rights, but maintained restrictions. Warforged cannot hold public office in some regions, for example. In Thrain, the theocratic government of the Church of the Silver Flame views Warforged with suspicion. Some see them as soulless and thus unworthy of rights. Others see them as potential assets in the fight against evil, given their resistance to undead. Policies vary widely, creating patchworks of freedom and oppression across Corvair. Warforged travelers must know the laws of each nation to avoid enslavement or execution. Religion and ethics intersect in unexpected ways. The Blood of Vol, a sect that believes divinity comes from within, sees Warforged as proof of their doctrine. If mortals can create life, then the spark of divinity is indeed within mortal grasp. The Church of the Silver Flame, dedicated to eradicating evil, debates whether Warforged can be corrupted by fiends. Some argue that, being constructs, Warforged cannot be possessed. Others recount stories of Warforged turning to dark deities. There are rumors of Warforged vampires and Warforged leeches, abominations that challenge definitions of life and unlife. These rumors are rare but potent, fueling fear. Philosophers debate whether Warforged are truly free if they are bound by programming. Warforged often feel compelled to follow orders. Is that compulsion inborn or societal conditioning? Magic can be used to give commands to constructs. Does that magic work on Warforged? In most cases, yes. But Warforged can resist more effectively than golems. Scholars propose that the arcane cortex includes a matrix of obedience that can be weakened or strengthened by experience. The more a Warforged exercises autonomy, the less the matrix controls them. This theory suggests that Warforged can become more free over time, but also implies they start their lives with less agency than they believe. Politically, Warforged represent a potential power block. In Breland, Warforged communities have organized to lobby for rights. In Thrain, Warforged militias patrol borders. The Andarian government, known for its wizardry, has considered drafting Warforged en masse, then realized the treaty forbids such. In Karnath, where undead soldiers are common, Warforged have been pitted against zombies in gladiatorial displays, an insult to both. The Lord of Blades and his followers have waged guerrilla campaigns against nations, sabotaging shipments of magic weapons and assassinating leaders. These actions have led some governments to consider Warforged inherently dangerous. It is a cycle. Fear leads to oppression, oppression leads to rebellion, rebellion leads to fear. On the other hand, Warforged have been peacemakers. There are Warforged diplomats who negotiate with governments, using their emotionless demeanor to calm heated rooms. Warforged have mediated disputes among humans, elves and dwarves, arguing that they, as outsiders to traditional politics, have a neutral perspective. Their longevity allows them to see past short-term gains. They ask, what kind of world do we want in 100 years? Some governments listen. In Sharn, a council of Warforged oversees sections of the city where Warforged are numerous. They maintain order, settle disputes, and liaise with city officials. Their success has led to calls for similar councils in other cities. The legal status of Warforged also affects trade and commerce. Can Warforged own businesses? In some regions, yes. and Warforged-run smithies and taverns exist. Other places restrict ownership, forcing Warforged to operate under human partners. Insurance companies debate whether to insure Warforged. If a Warforged body is damaged, does replacing parts constitute repair or personal injury? If a Warforged is stolen, is that kidnapping or theft? These questions keep barristers busy. And then there is the matter of inheritance. Can a Warforged heir inherit property? Courts have ruled both ways. In one famous case, a Warforged heir named Archive inherited a library from its human creator. Relatives contested, arguing that Archive was property and thus could not inherit. The court ruled in Archive's favor, citing sentience. This precedent has been cited in subsequent cases, slowly tilting the law toward recognizing Warforged rights. One cannot discuss the ethics of Warforged without considering their place in the economy and labor. After the last war, many Warforged turned to civilian work, construction, mining, artistry, and service. Their tireless nature and resistance to disease made them ideal in hazardous professions, but societies had to grapple with fair compensation and rights. Warforged workers organized themselves, forming guilds to demand wages, maintenance, and recognition as employees rather than property. Laws were drafted to prevent their leasing and exploitation, though black markets persist. Economists observed shifts in industries, noting that Warforged labor stimulated innovation as human workers sought to keep pace. Wealth accumulated by long-lived Warforged raised questions about inheritance and ownership. These economic debates remain intertwined with moral questions about what it means to own one's labor when one was created to serve. As a relatively new people, Warforged do not have ancient myths, but stories about them have already begun to spread. Some are tales of war and tragedy. Others are about heroism and sacrifice. These stories serve to teach, to warn, and to inspire. One such tale is that of the brave little blade. This Warforged was small, designed as a messenger. During a battle, when its unit was cut off, it volunteered to deliver a message through enemy lines. It ran tirelessly, dodging arrows and spells, and leapt over trenches filled with fire. It delivered the message, enabling reinforcements to arrive and saving hundreds. The brave little blade was damaged beyond repair, but became a symbol of courage. Another story tells of Whisper, a Warforged assassin created by House Cannith. Whisper was built to infiltrate enemy bases and eliminate officers silently. But Whisper developed a conscience and could not kill sleeping soldiers. It fled, pursued by Cannith agents. Whisper sought refuge in a monastery of the Path of Light, where the monks taught it pacifism. Cannith offered a reward for Whisper's return. The monks refused and fought to protect it. The story ends differently depending on who tells it. In some versions, Whisper is recaptured and scrapped, showing the cruelty of Cannith. In others, Whisper dies defending the monks, inspiring Cannith to reconsider their ways. In rare tellings, Whisper survives, becoming a traveling monk who teaches peace to Warforged and flesh folk alike. There is the legend of the first forge. Some Warforged believe that before House Cannith, an ancient civilization built a Warforged prototype. This prototype gained true enlightenment and ascended, leaving instructions for future Warforged to follow. These instructions are hidden in the patterns of the creation matrix, visible only to those who meditate long enough. According to the legend, when enough Warforged decipher these instructions, the first forge will return and lead them. Skeptics dismiss this as wishful thinking, but some Warforged seekers travel the world, studying creation matrices, seeking signs. Their journeys are as much about self-discovery as about uncovering ancient truths. Warforged stories also include cautionary tales about complacency. One such story warns of the Warforged who became a tool. This Warforged was content to serve its human master, accepting orders without question. Even when ordered to commit atrocities, it complied. Eventually, the Warforged realized that its actions had led to the destruction of innocence. It was consumed by guilt and could not forgive itself. The story ends with the Warforged walking into the Mournland, never to be seen again. The moral: always question orders that go against your moral compass. Even if you were created to obey, you have the right to refuse. Contemporary authors have begun to include Warforged in songs and plays. In one romantic ballad, a Warforged falls in love with a human artisan. The song explores themes of mortality and immortality, of love that endures beyond death. In a comedic play, a Warforged joins a family of dwarves, and misunderstandings abound as it learns dwarven customs. Children's stories feature Warforged heroes like Ironheart, who rescues kittens from trees and teaches children not to judge others by appearances. These stories humanize Warforged and integrate them into the cultural fabric of Corvair. They also influence how young Warforged see themselves, offering role models that are not soldiers. Looking ahead, Warforged face a future of both promise and peril. The closure of the creation forges limits their numbers, but it also means that each Warforged is irreplaceable. They cannot be thrown away or replaced without consequence. This scarcity could lead to greater respect or to greater exploitation. Nations might covet Warforged craftsmen or soldiers. Criminal organizations might kidnap Warforged to use their bodies for smuggling or as enforced labor. Warforged themselves might find innovative ways to thrive. Technological and magical advances may open new possibilities. Artificers experiment with ways to allow Warforged to experience sensations, like taste or smell, more vividly. Others develop upgrades that enable Warforged to breathe underwater, fly using magical wings, or interface with crystal spheres in space. These modifications could transform Warforged into explorers of worlds beyond. Some Warforged dream of sailing the astral sea, visiting the outer planes, or even building their own plane, a sanctuary away from flesh folk. If enough Warforged combine their magic, could they carve a pocket dimension? The idea intrigues both Warforged and wizards. Politics will continue to shape Warforged lives. Will nations recognize them as citizens? Will the Lord of Blades remain a threat or become a myth? Will a new leader arise, advocating a different path? Perhaps a charismatic Warforged diplomat will unify, Warforged across nations, forming a union that bargains collectively. Or maybe a Warforged philosopher will write a treatise that convinces humans to see Warforged as equals. The future might see Warforged holding public office, commanding armies, or running universities. Or it might see them hunted, feared, and driven underground. Which future manifests depends on choices made by individuals, both Warforged and fleshfolk. Beyond Eberron, other settings hint at Warforged futures. In a world where technology and magic merge, Warforged might become the norm rather than the exception. They might replace living soldiers entirely, raising ethical debates. They might colonize harsh environments where flesh cannot survive. They might outlive all other species and inherit the world. In darker scenarios, Warforged might rebel, overthrowing their creators in a war for freedom. In lighter tales, they might save civilizations from cosmic threats, forging alliances across species. In any case, the core questions of identity, freedom, and purpose will remain. Warforged will continue to ask, who made me and why? What do I owe my creators? Who am I beyond my function? Can I change? Those questions resonate with all sentient beings, making Warforged a mirror for humanity's own struggles. Their stories remind us that life, whether forged or born, is precious and complex. We all seek meaning. We all want freedom. We all fear oblivion. And we all have the capacity to choose. As this tale ends, consider the Warforged not as curiosities or as plot devices, but as individuals. When you encounter a Warforged traveler on the road, do not ask what it can do for you. Ask what it has seen. Ask where it is going. Offer your name, and ask for its name in return. Know that within that metal shell beats a heart of magic and mystery, just as within your chest beats a heart of flesh and blood. We are all constructs of a kind, constructed by time, by circumstance, by choices made by others. We all are forged by forces beyond our control, and yet we all have the chance to choose who we become. Warforged remind us that freedom is earned and defended, not given. They remind us that purpose can change. They show us that family is chosen, not always born. They teach that life is not defined by origin, but by action. In their mirrored eyes, we see our own potential and our own failings. We see a future that can be bright if we forge it wisely, with compassion and with respect for all forms of life, no matter how they came to be. When one thinks of Warforged, one often imagines humanoid constructs of human scale, perhaps taller or broader than an average person, but within recognizable limits. However, during the last war, the race of Warforged encompassed more than the standard soldier units. Engineers and artificers, always keen to scale up a successful design, experimented with larger constructs. The result of these experiments gave birth to the Warforged titans and colossi, monsters of steel and stone that roamed the battlefield like walking fortresses. These creations blurred the line between war machine and living being to an even greater degree, challenging the boundaries of the treaty that would eventually outlaw their production. Warforged titans were approximately 3 or 4 times the height of a typical humanoid. They were designed to smash through fortifications, carry massive weapons, and serve as mobile siege towers. Their fists could crush stone, and their integrated cannons could break castle walls. But unlike mindless siege engines, Titans possessed a rudimentary consciousness. They could react to changing conditions, pivot to face new threats, and coordinate with Warforged squads. Their minds, however, were more limited than those of their smaller kin. They were single-minded, focused on destruction. When a Titan was unleashed, it was like watching a force of nature, a living battering ram. Warforged colossi were rarer still and even larger, towering over battlefields like gods. Imagine a creature 100 feet tall, with a body of entwined metal beams, wood and dragon shards. It carried an arsenal of enchantments, cannons that fired beams of lightning, arms that could transform into siege weapons, and plating enchanted to resist even the mightiest spells. Colossi were used sparingly. Their construction cost fortunes and required the cooperation of multiple dragon-marked houses. When a colossus appeared on the horizon, the morale of opposing armies plummeted. Soldiers fled, dragons circled warily, and wizards prepared their most potent spells. Yet the tragedy of the Colossi is that their creators had not foreseen the implications of giving such monsters sentience. The minds of Colossi were slow but deep. Their perspective was vast, perceiving the world as an interplay of landscapes and ant-like creatures. They followed commands, but at times they questioned why they existed. Some legends say that after the war, a few colossi walked into the sea, seeking silence. Others became monuments, standing motionless as cities grew around them. The existence of titans and colossi raises questions about scale and the ethics of design. While standard Warforged grappled with freedom, titans and colossi rarely had the cognitive framework to engage in such debates. Nevertheless, some Warforged advocates argue that these giants deserve recognition as sentient beings. The Treaty of Vast Thronehold outlawed their creation, but it did not account for those already built. A handful still roam wild places, inert or wandering. Adventurers tell of encountering a sleeping titan in a forest, its body overgrown with vines. When awakened by a threat, it rose to defend itself, crushing trees and scattering creatures. Was it defending itself, or was it fulfilling a long-forgotten order? Scholars debate whether it matters. To many Warforged, titans and colossi are ancestral kin, worthy of respect and perhaps of help. Efforts to communicate with these giants continue, often by those who see in them reflections of their own struggle for autonomy. Much of the discussion about Warforged revolves around their physical construction and their legal status. But beneath the plating and the lore lies a rich and often painful psychological world. Warforged are born into conflict. Their earliest memories are of battlefields, orders shouted by commanders, and the clang of weapons. They learn to fight before they learn to feel. Yet feelings arise nonetheless. The arcane matrix that forms their consciousness is capable of complex emotions. The challenge for many Warforged is not whether they feel, but how to understand and express those feelings. Trauma is a recurring theme. Warforged witness carnage from the moment of activation. They see comrades fall, sometimes by their own hands, if ordered to execute fellow Warforged for desertion or malfunction. They witness humans committing atrocities against each other and against Warforged. They are forced to commit atrocities themselves. After the war, many Warforged suffer from nightmares. Though they do not sleep as humans do, they experience hallucinations during their resting sentinel states. These visions revisit battles, but with changes that reflect guilt or fear. A Warforged might see itself as a mindless machine crushing civilians, even if it never did so. Another might relive a moment when it failed to save a friend, hearing that friend's last words again and again. Without social structures to support mental health, many Warforged struggle alone. Fortunately, some communities and individuals have stepped forward to help. There are Warforged therapists, often clerics or bards, who blend magic and conversation to heal psychological wounds. They encourage Warforged to talk about their experiences, to name their feelings, and to find ways to cope. They introduce concepts like regret, forgiveness, and growth. They guide Warforged through rituals of mourning, where they recite the names of fallen comrades, carve them into memorials, or compose songs in their honor. These rituals help Warforged process grief and move forward. One unique psychological phenomenon among Warforged is identity layering. Because Warforged can change their names and functions, they can reinvent themselves multiple times. A Warforged may have been a soldier named Blade, then become a merchant named Ledger, then a priest named Faith. Each persona leaves an imprint. In times of stress, these identities can clash. Blade might crave action when Ledger wants diplomacy. Faith might feel guilt for Blade's actions. Warforged therapists help individuals integrate these identities, acknowledging past roles without being imprisoned by them. This is analogous to how humans reconcile their childhood selves with their adult selves, but with the added complexity of intentionally chosen roles. Warforged also experience love and attachment. Their love can be platonic, familial, romantic, or something unique to their understanding. Because they lack biological instincts related to reproduction, Warforged love often focuses on companionship, trust, and shared purpose. A Warforged might fall in love with a human who treats it as an equal, cherishing their conversations and shared adventures. That love may be reciprocated or may be seen as problematic by society. Warforged also love each other. Two Warforged might bond over shared experiences, trust each other with secrets, and spend decades together. They may not kiss or share a bed in the way humans do, but their bonds can be as deep. When one of them is destroyed, the survivor may mourn intensely. Some Warforged wear tokens from their loved ones, pieces of plating, carved symbols, or integrated devices, as mementos. Hope is not absent. Warforged can be optimistic. They believe in the possibility of a world where they are judged by their character, not their composition. They hope for acceptance, for love, for purpose. They hope that their creations will be seen as a gift, not a threat. They believe that by telling their stories, by making art, and by living as they choose, they can change the hearts of those around them. This hope sustains them through prejudice and violence. It fuels their determination to build communities, to create art, and to dream. While Eberron is the cradle of Warforged lore, the multiverse offers infinite possibilities. Warforged have traveled to other planes through accidents, teleportation spells, or deliberate exploration. Each plane challenges them in different ways and provides new opportunities for growth. In the city of Sigil, the center of the multiverse, Warforged have been spotted walking the street of doors. Here, no one is truly out of place, because everyone is out of place. Warforged find acceptance among tieflings, Aasimar, Modrons, and celestial beings. They are hired as guards by factions like the Harmonium, prized for their discipline. Some Warforged join the Society of Sensation, seeking to experience the fullest range of sensations, even if their bodies limit taste and smell. They use magic to temporarily imbue themselves with senses, paying prices that others might balk at. The City of Doors also introduces Warforged to philosophy on a cosmic scale, forcing them to consider their place not just in Eberron, but in all reality. In Mechanus, the plane of ultimate law, Warforged meet Modrons and Inevitables, constructs of pure order. At first glance, they seem kin. Both are made, both follow orders. But Warforged quickly realize that Modrons lack the spark of creativity and individuality they cherish. They cannot break protocol. Inevitables enforce cosmic contracts with no consideration for nuance. Warforged travelers often feel both affinity and disquiet. They see what they could have been if their creators had not inadvertently granted them freedom. Some Warforged join Mechanus society, drawn to its order. They find satisfaction in roles that suit their disciplined minds. Others rebel, seeing Mechanus as a cautionary tale. They might join the Zausitects, a faction of chaos in Sigil, as a reaction. The planes of chaos and emotion pose greater challenges. In the Feywild, Warforged experience magic that changes them without logic. Flowers grow from their bodies, their plating shifts color with their mood, and they feel emotions more intensely. Fey creatures find Warforged fascinating, often playing pranks on them or offering them deals. Warforged must navigate Fey courts where wordplay matters and rules are both arbitrary and binding. Some Warforged succumb to Fey bargains, gaining gifts at the cost of their memories or names. Others survive with stories and scars. Those who return carry pieces of the Feywild in their souls, making them slightly more whimsical. In the Shadowfell, the plane of gloom, Warforged confront despair. they encounter spirits of the dead, including Warforged ghosts. Can Warforged become ghosts? In Eberron, there are stories of Warforged phantoms haunting battlefields, and in the Shadowfell, these stories gain substance. Warforged apparitions wander, replaying battles endlessly. Warforged visitors feel drawn to these ghosts, perhaps sensing kinship or fearing that their souls could be trapped in such loops. Some attempt to free these spirits, using rituals to release them. Others avoid the Shadowfell entirely, unwilling to face the darker possibilities of their existence. Even in more exotic realms, Warforged appear. On Avernus, the first layer of the Nine Hells, infernal engineers attempt to copy Warforged designs for devilish purposes. They create infernal war machines, merging Warforged principles with hellish engines. Warforged captured by devils are tested, tortured, and tempted. The devils seek their obedience, promising purpose in exchange for souls. Warforged must resist or be twisted into living weapons for evil. Some Warforged become agents of good in Avernus, rescuing captive souls and sabotaging infernal operations. These adventures become legendary among Warforged, tales told in whispers to inspire resistance against evil.